Go. All right, Jen DeLia,
Yes.
Brionne Davis in the house. Um, very excited to. We have such great conversations, so it's always like we think we should just be recording this for everybody's benefit.
And we are.
And we are. Um, so I feel like this is. I don't know if that's better or not. So we were talking yesterday about women leaders. We're talking about women in the industry. We're talking about the feminine versus the masculine. Those kind of the yin and yang of those and authenticity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you frozen? Yes. Oh no, you're frozen on there, but you're not there. Okay, cool. So let's talk a little bit about your perspective of authenticity, feminine, and authenticity, masculine, and what we can do to evolve into where we all can kind of lay claim and accept and embrace both of those things in ourselves.
Okay. Well, I think the background is important too, like why we care about these things, like me and you. Personally, is what was being discussed was our experiences specifically in Hollywood and in the storytelling field, right? Which is kind of like a microcosm for the world, and a great broadcaster of images and messaging. And we're finding that when Hollywood speaks out about a particular movement or cause or message, it generates a lot of energy. Yeah. And you and I have had discussions about the danger and the beauty in that powerful mechanism and that powerful generator. And so we are both filmmakers. We wear different hats, right? I'm a writer, director, producer. You're leaving me alone. Just kidding.
Just trying to make my screen on the phone not so dark. Okay.
And I have abandonment issues, by the way.
We get to dive into that.
When you leave me, I get really scared.
Oh, that's awful because I have commitment issues.
And that's part of the paradigm, right? When you leave me, I get really scared. No.
And when you get scared, I get a feeling of oppression. No. It's not true. None of that is true. Okay. I'm just playing off of abandonment versus commitment. Like people who have abandonment issues are so committed, and people who have commitment issues are so like the other.
I know. It's side. Like they feed each other. Yeah, no. But we are a good match. Yes, so yeah, just sort of delving into, I think on just like a fundamental level, where do we think we are as storytellers and therefore as humanity, in terms of what everybody seems to kind of address as the patriarchal paradigm, you know, where we've been unleashing a lot of stories around trauma and sexual assault and the predator, and just like not feeling safe in our work environments and in our bodies, you know. How do we find that balance? I mean, you and I are both, you know, very spiritually inquisitive people and have a lot of, you know, discussion around the masculine and feminine, not just as anatomy, but as energy that every being embodies. So if we're talking about a patriarchal paradigm, are we talking about an imbalance? Are we talking about a masculine energy that is we've allowed to become too dominant, not just in the male, but in all of us? And how do we break down those traits? What are feminine traits and what are masculine traits that we want to have in balance? And then it led us to a discussion about, you know, the female in power who is acting out these traits that are dominant and perpetuating these cycles. So this is a very layered discussion. So go ahead and jump in, because I just wanted to lay the groundwork a little bit.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, for sure it's layered. I mean, humanity is incredibly complex, right? I mean, it just is. And that's the beauty of what we do. We dive deep into all those complexities, whether we're writing or we're representing the human condition as an actor, and we're telling that story as a director. We have to dive deep into all those complexities. We are never just the surface of the words written on a page. Mm-hmm. Our behavior represents so much more, and that stems all the way back from 0 to 8, right? That stems all the way back to our nurturing. It stems, depending on what you believe, it just stems back to past lives, blah, blah, blah. I probably turned a few people off, but we can't deny, we can't deny the genetic makeup, the conditioning, and what's the other thing? Conditioning and the nurturing. Mm-hmm. We can't deny those in terms of who we become. Mm-hmm. We get to acknowledge those things and go, okay, is this working for me? Is this not working for me? That's what we get to do. And that is where we kind of land in the system, let's just say Hollywood or the political arena, or where you're put in a position where you're told to be one thing, but you know that your strength is something else, which is your authenticity, right? So I was told for a really long time that I couldn't cross my legs, that I couldn't play with a doll, that I couldn't play pretend, that I couldn't, I was told that I couldn't be my authentic self. Mm-hmm. Because my authentic self was contrast to the masculine, right? Mm-hmm. However, I was all of those things. I loved playing war when I was a kid because it was an opportunity to pretend. I loved playing cowboys and Indians because it was an opportunity to pretend. I loved Boy Scouts. I loved adventures. I loved playing house. I loved playing school. I loved playing Barbies with my cousin. I loved playing G.I. Joe with my brother. I loved that because it was all story. So what my elders at the time didn't understand was it wasn't a masculine feminine thing, it was the pretend thing, it was the imagination thing, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really around committing to your authenticity. And I feel like so many times, and my experience, I've had so many amazing female leaders. I've only, like, the best ADs I've ever come across.
Well, what's an AD?
Have been assistant directors.
And they they really run the set in terms of wrangling talent and keeping us on schedule and facilitating shot lists, and they're kind of like the voice that gets you going,
Yeah, they're the backbone for the director and the set and production, in my opinion. A strong AD allows the director, and this is where we dive into the opportunity for the director to be more in the feminine.
But we should define that too. Like, what is masculine and what is feminine traits to you?
Sure.
What is
so for me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, my experience of the feminine is being present and then allowing to receive. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that is and it's nurturing, and it listens with multi-dimensional aspects of itself. That's why women are, in my experience, women are so good being able to multitask and be able to be in multiple places at once and kind of strategize and also be present in their hearts. That's been my experience of women. Mm-hmm. The problem in women leaders, and it's so good.
And it's a feminine energy that you have to. Yeah.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is the assistant director, in my opinion, so often requires a very masculine, get things done, sense of urgency, move, get force, move, and my experience with female assistant directors has been extraordinary. So it's interesting that the AD position, the assistant director position, requires that sense of urgency, that sense of move, that sense of kind of force almost.
So is that how you see the masculine, is more of a action-oriented energy?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires quick decision making, right?
Mm-hmm.
The masculine is quick decision making, just going to make a choice and I'll deal with the ramifications later, which is sometimes good, right? Because sometimes we just need urgency. Sometimes we just need a choice to be made, right? And from my experience, that is a masculine energy. It has nothing to do with male and female. It's just a masculine energy, I think. And the feminine receives, nurtures, embraces all ideas, strategizes, makes choices, and then allows something to happen.
Right. And so when a person, a particular person, is imbalanced in those two energies, they can work on in all those ways, receive and
in
process.
Balance or in balance?
In balanced is actually
so they're
balanced.
Not even.
No, they are balanced.
They are in balance. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing is that that person would be able to receive information, process in a sort of detached and nurturing way, but also then be able to make a decision and execute on inspired action. That would be utilizing both energies. It's not like you can't if you're female or can't if you're male. Right.
It's essential. It's essential, especially in the creative process, because you can't force a thing to happen in a creative process, because those voices, if you're writing, that experience, if you're developing a character, if you're diving deep into the character, that information comes into you. It's not like I'm going to intellectualize and make something happen. That can happen. But when you're discovering, you're in the discovery process, it requires a nurtured energy. It requires an embrace, an allowing in. So that's my experience. And I'll just jump and catch me if I'm going too far ahead too soon. When those are not in balance, right? Then, like you were saying, then the project suffers. There's an inauthenticity. So I've worked with female heads of production, or female heads of, like when I was in restaurants, I worked with some female GMs and female leaders that were, when they're one-on-one, they're really vulnerable and authentic and listening and embrace. But then they get into a system where they're just, they're trying to prove something, right? They're living in that masculine, what they think they need to be in order to be respected, right? And that's not authentic. That's inauthentic. But that goes across the playing field. When you're trying to be something that you're not, to prove something.
Yeah, and sometimes
then
people don't realize, like, people are like, we're all works in progress, so people don't realize that they're being inauthentic. They're raised or programmed or feeling to survive, and a lot of it comes from the subconscious, so it doesn't even register as inauthentic, consciously. It might feel authentic to them in that particular moment. Which, so when we get into like the conversation, which is really where it started for us yesterday, about the abuser and this sort of like aggressive energy that we feel sometimes in these positions where people are in power, and especially I think a lot in our industry with fame and wealth and this larger than life sort of construct, and this feeling of like there's a lot of under the radar abuse going on, and it's happening, and it's being asked of people to not speak up for themselves or to share their experiences, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And
do you think that's strictly a male role, that the aggressor, in your experience, has been strictly in the male form?
No, because aggression can also be passive aggression, which I think is quite often an inauthentic feminine attribute.
Like manipulation.
Passive aggression.
Manipulation, emotional, verbal.
Yeah.
So you've experienced abuse or witnessed it. And when we're talking about abuse, we're talking about something that you just know is crossing a line. You just know feels bad in your body. You just know you're being mistreated. Obviously, that's a word that is so personal, so I don't want to like use it lightly. But it's like you know it in your gut. Yeah.
I've had experiences where I'll bring two. One was a situation where a guy completely misunderstood, misinterpreted, was completely projecting a situation, and was projecting all of that onto me. And he came at me, talked at me, didn't want to hear my side, just bam, 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 and just was like right at me. Okay. That to me is a very masculine, unhealthy approach. Like, it's just, I'm in your face. I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to speak to you or at you, and I'm not going to have a dialogue, and I don't care what your side of the story is. Okay. Then one of my biggest Hollywood lessons was a feature film that I was directing a few years ago, and then I'm trying to remember what I can say and what I can't say, but there was a lot of things that was taken from me, and it was a very manipulated, passive aggression, manipulated, like it was just kind of a big bowl, and all the manipulation was working around in it, and it came out on the other side in a way that was really abusive, right? And it was detrimental to the project. It was detrimental to multiple relationships, and it was unethical. But there was a very feminine manipulation of the circumstance, right? So those are just my experiences of the personality of an unhealthy feminine energy and an unhealthy masculine energy, and the kind of two, right?
And in terms of, giving voice, like this sort of idea of conflict resolution, or this idea of, how do you address these things? Like, if you're being told that if you speak out, you will be blacklisted, which happens in our industry. You will never work again, and I've experienced these situations, even around circumstances that I didn't do, things I did not do, that I was actually just sort of like in the line of fire, so to speak. Actually, kind of not even in the line of fire. I was sort of just,
you are the line of fire. Yeah.
But even if I had done it, let's just say, it still wouldn't be the approach. It's still you don't not give someone an opportunity to speak, right?
Yeah.
Whether they did it or didn't do it.
Right. They get an opportunity to defend themselves.
Yeah, and to ask questions, and where did this come from, and what is going on? So,
and that was my experience with that. Yeah, go ahead.
that you didn't get to speak.
Yeah, and you were talking at me, or you, not you, but
Yeah.
the person was talking at me without any kind of, and for the way I was receiving it is, dude, this is how you perceive the world. That means that's what you create in your life, and that's what you're projecting. And like, if you're not gonna hear me and you're not gonna hear my side of the story, you're not gonna ask me questions, if you're not gonna give me the benefit of the doubt, and you're projecting, and that's how you treat people. And and I feel like that is more of a reflection of them. And I want to get to acknowledgement and awareness here in a second.
So what about like the current culture where there's a lot of, you know, people really speaking out about things that have happened, which I think is a necessary step. And some of those people are, and I'm not making a judgment, this is just an observation. It's becoming like this extremely unfiltered wave of expression where some of the people that have been victims and are speaking out are now acting out some of the things they're speaking out against in their approach to being helpful.
Yeah.
Do you think that's because that's like just part of the healing process? It seems dangerous when someone's in the public eye doing that exact thing.
Well, that's, yeah. I mean,
shutting people down, not giving voice, you know?
Yeah. When you look up narcissism, narcissistic abuse, when you look up, you know, I mean, any kind of cult, any kind of cult following, any kind of, I mean, we're seeing this demonstrated right now in politics, where it's not about policy, it's about our fearless leader, right? And it's narcissism, it's gaslighting, it's fear mongering. If you ever leave me, no one's ever going to love you as much as I do. If you ever leave me, then, like, you know, that kind of conversation makes someone feel, and they become the victim. And so they either maintain victimhood. This is narcissism 101, narcissism sociopathy. They either maintain victimhood or they become a narcissist themselves. And that's the jeopardy, because narcissism is literally, I cannot admit fault. I cannot embrace fault, apologize, weakness, vulnerability.
And where does the entitlement come from? Is that the same thing? Like this sense of like, I've been through all these things, and now as an advocate, there's some type of like compensation. Like I'm just going to be on a rampage to like bring people down.
Well, here's 3 words.
And I mean people that didn't do things. I'm not talking about the people that did the things, you know?
So I'm writing down 3 words. So there's, there's acknowledgement, awareness, and a concept called deserving. Right? So acknowledgement is to acknowledge the experience you've had, acknowledge good, bad, admit it, right? This has happened to me. This is part of my life story and my life experience. And then to have an awareness of your emotions and your feelings around that, which are 100% justified. What matters is how we act on it. And we have to have an awareness around how we act on it, how we're affecting other people. And then we get to constantly ask ourselves the question, am I regurgitating the same abuse, the same system, right? The third one is deserving. I've let go of, and this is my new breakthrough. It's freed me so much in so many parts of my life. I don't deserve anything. I'm not entitled to anything. No matter how hard I work, no matter how much I give, I don't deserve, and I'm not entitled to anything. What I get to do is continue to give generously, generosity, generosity, generosity. And then, now, do I have standards in how I want to be treated? Yes. But it doesn't mean I deserve to be treated that way. I just get to make the choice that if you are in my life and you don't treat me with respect, cool, awesome. I don't get to call you. You're not in my life. You're not, right? Cool, it's fine. I get to make that choice. I get to look at my environment and I ask, does this environment, the home that I'm living in, the relationships that I have, do they elevate me? Do they support me? Mm-hmm. Do I deserve to be elevated? Do I deserve to be supported? No.
So I have a question for you then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you were about to collaborate with someone, let's just say you're, about to direct something, and you're really excited about your cinematographer. Yeah. You've had an amazing collaboration. You find this person to be extremely aligned values-wise. Mm-hmm. And then you hear a rumor, like vaguely, that maybe this person was accused of harassment on a set at some point in time. You don't really have details. You're not really sure if the person who's telling you is even close with you. You don't really know much. Okay. How do you address that situation?
Awesome, easy. So if I have that kind of relationship with this DP, this director of photography.
Yeah, you're not old friends. You haven't worked together, but your intuition feels really, really good.
Yeah. Okay. So then, based on what you gave me first, right? Mm-hmm. Based on, whatever, I'm also going to background check. I'm gonna ask other people, what was your experience? I'm doing all that before I hire the director of photography, right? So if 4 people say, yeah, it was a bad experience, I'm like, okay, moving on. Okay?
No, but this is a very specific situation. Okay. Everything is checked out. You've brought this person on board. And as you're getting closer to shooting, you bump into someone at a party and you hear some kind of vague new information.
Okay. So we're getting closer to shooting. This means I've had a while with this person.
Maybe.
I have an experience, I've had pre-production meetings, I've had locations, right, whatever, and nothing's come up like that. Then I'm gonna get to be direct with your point. And then I'm at a party and this person says this, then this is what I do. As a leader, as a person where I have to nurture my set and nurture everyone that comes on board, then I'm going to go to that person and I'm going to say, hey, this happened. Let me have your side of the story. Now the person that comes to me and tells me that, what's my relationship with them? Is it a really solid friend that I've worked with that I have a great respect for? Then that's going to hold more credit. Right?
But regardless, does it stand that you are going to address the person in question?
Hell yes. Mm-hmm. Hell yes. Because communication is everything.
Right.
And it's not fair because, look, I've had very damaging and defaming comments potentially put toward me. And luckily, there was a contracting lawsuit that prevented that from happening, but it was completely untrue. The threat, so it wasn't even that they did it, it was the threat that they were going to. Mm-hmm. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So there are systems put in place because unfortunately those people exist. But if I'm going to absolutely go to that person, and if that person on the other side says to me, don't tell them I said this, then that's not fair. I'm going to tell that person that, no, you're telling me this. I'm going to have a conversation with them, and I'm going to tell them you told me this. I'm going to do that. So then I go to this person and I say, hey, you know, this happened. This was the person. This is the person that told me this. Because if you're going to create a defamation around somebody, you better be willing to stand your case and be willing to you know, put yourself out there. And then, is it a red flag? It's a pink flag, right? It's I'm gonna go, okay, I'm note taken. There's one person. If 3 people say it, then oh yeah, there's probably an issue, right?
Yeah, and I just think this is a very important point that you're making, that this level of communication is so vital. Obviously, every situation's different. Maybe it's addressed, you know, differently every time. It just depends. Like you're saying, what are the circumstances? Who are you hearing it from? How many people, you know? But I'm finding that there's a lot of, in this like really genuine quest for combating these power dynamics and this abuse, there's this other issue now of not fact checking, not giving voice, just hearing things and shutting people down. And I feel like there's already so much anxiety and depression and fear and things in the world that, especially when someone doesn't even know and hasn't even done the thing or isn't aware, it's really, really detrimental to somebody's mental health to be accused of something, told if they speak about it, their livelihood is going to be shattered. And
well,
I think, you know, we're kind of like riding a fine line of being in a healing process as a collective and in our microcosm of an industry, and perpetuating this continuing like damaging behavior.
Well, here's the thing. People.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. But people would rather spin around a hive and just all this drama, all of this la la la, and talk behind each other's back, hold on to this anger, and hold on to this animosity, and hold on to like the speculation, hold on to all of that stuff. They'd rather do that because that's, for some reason, is more comfortable than going to the source and saying, hey, now, I'm not responsible with how you feel about me coming to you about that. Like if that director of photography came to me and said, God damn it, I hate blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? That's a red flag because you're like, you're being really defensive. But if I was innocent to the accusation, then I'd say, yeah, well, there was a misunderstanding, this happened, and blah, blah.
Yeah, and sometimes
you know,
maybe something did happen and you want an opportunity to take ownership of it. That's another thing, is like, maybe I was directing and I didn't know this thing happened on my set, or maybe I hurt somebody's feelings and it felt abusive to them and I couldn't in a million years imagine that I would have seemed abusive and no one told me, or something like that. Like, we want to be able to expand and also eradicate, you know?
For sure. And how do we do that? There's the solution. One of the solutions is.
And I just honestly, Brionne, like, I do not want people being afraid that they will never work again if they speak out. Like, honestly, some of the people making these threats have powerful legal teams, have a lot of money, have a publicist, have these things. And it's like, and then the person that's getting threatened is an emerging artist or somebody not with all those resources per se. And they just feel like they have to cower. And then there's also people using this stuff in order to build their fame, you know?
Truth and authenticity will always win. Truth and authenticity.
Good. I really
win.
Want that.
And it may feel scary at first, right? To stretch beyond that comfort zone, to call forward. But if truth and authenticity are the measures in which you are guided, then it may not lead you. Maybe you're not going to get the next big feature film break or whatever. Maybe not. but that's going to lead you, that truth and authenticity is going to lead you down a path of where you should be or get to be based on your life purpose.
Like if
yeah.
something happens, like people need to tell people right away. Like I worked on a set where I produced for a week on an international production and found out someone was harassing a couple of our female crew members and they felt sexually harassed. But the AD didn't tell me until we were wrapping. And so I potentially was the producer that didn't give a shit because I didn't know. I was producing, so I was out on phone calls sometimes. I was helping get lunch because it was indie, or I didn't know what was going on. And I had to say to her, you can never do that. You can never know that and not share it to a producer.
Yeah.
I would have asked the guy to leave. Yeah.
So was it an indie project? Was it a non-union project?
It was non-union. It was indie.
Okay.
And she was nervous because he was close with the director. And she thought she was friends with the female crew, so she could just like manage it and like keep everybody going and happy until the end. I didn't want to rock the boat. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you don't. So that was a learning curve for her. Because
on a union set, you have to communicate that.
But look, like Brionne, it doesn't matter. It doesn't always happen on union sets. A lot of these.
I get you. But okay. Let me go back
as you know, a contract is only as good as the human signing it. So union or non-union, whatever you promise to do is dependent on what you do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I get you. And on that union set, there's also those actors can go to the union and have those and file those claims.
Yeah, but they don't want to lose.
Matter.
They don't. No, it's important. Of course it matters.
No. I'm not saying that doesn't matter. I'm not saying it doesn't matter union versus non-union. That's not what matters.
No,
what matters.
It does matter.
Well, yeah.
It's a good point. It's a really good point that
non-union doesn't provide those safety measures.
Right.
Union does.
But
a union. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, obviously, all the high-profile cases that have come out have been union. It's just like people don't want to lose their job, so they don't report stuff.
Right. And you can go to the union and anonymously report something too. So here's but what this is where we like the conversation is around communication. And truth and authenticity always win over.
But also fear. Like people are not speaking because of fear. You know?
Yeah. We are often paralyzed because of fear. I mean, fear, we can either courageously move forward, and that's what we get to be. That's what I want to tell the world. All of everybody that's watching on Facebook and Instagram.
Like, I'd rather honestly get out of our industry than like support these ways of being, you know?
Well, and that's the question. It's the question of, do we continue what we love to do and be leaders in the change and create sets?
I knew you were going to say that, and that's why I said it. I love it.
Leadership trickles down. When I've directed in a theater or film, I bring everybody, all the cast, all the crew, everybody into a circle. And I lay down the rules. First, no phones on set. Mm-hmm. No phones on stage. If I see you with a phone, you just leave. Okay? Just letting me make that really clear. Number 2, communicate with me. Here's my assistant director. Bring your whatever it is that you have an idea about. If you want to contribute an idea because you're seeing things that I might not be seeing. If you have a problem with somebody inside the cast or inside the crew, bring that to our attention. I will sit down with you. I will sit down with the person you have a problem with. I will sit down with all those people. I lay that, like, that is just laid out. So if it's not mentioned, and if you have a problem with that right now, leave. If you are going to cause someone to feel uncomfortable on the job and not apologize for it, not listen to the, hey, you're making me feel uncomfortable, then leave. If you don't want to play that. Mm-hmm. So it comes from leadership, Jen. Comes from,
I know. I said that because I knew you would get passionate. Like, obviously, we're working from the inside out, which is why we're having this conversation, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm similar. Like, I've had my crews meditating together, you know? But I'm in, like, I mean, we're all growing and improving, right? We started in this industry so young. Like, I used to be a micromanager. I'm not a micromanager anymore. That was probably really hard to deal with sometimes for people around me. I mean, I still wanted to hear them and always would hear if something hurt their feelings. I tried to be really good about that. But I was a perfectionist and felt like I needed to prove myself and wanted everything a certain way. And sometimes it would be condescending, and I would get that feedback. And then some of those people are some of my closest friends now. Like, we grew and evolved. They were working for me or with me. But that communication, like you say, was just vital. You know, if I didn't allow for that feedback, I wouldn't have grown. They wouldn't have had a voice, you know? We've all done things, I'm sure, that seemed in leadership roles a little bit off-putting, you know, and not even in leadership roles. I mean, I see it happen even with the younger generation coming up. Like, they can seem really intense, and, you know, everyone's trying to figure things out, you know? So.
Well, that's why it's important to not hold on to, it's so important not to hold on to animosity or hold on to resentment and blame and shame, because all that's just really comfortable to keep you stagnant and in a place.
Yeah, like, what if you were like a micromanager years ago and pissed somebody off, and now we have this platform to just, like, unfiltered express everything that's ever happened, and suddenly someone comes out and they're like, Brionne abused me because he like told me I had to leave if I had my cell phone, you know? And it's like,
oh, well, that happened in one of my classes. Yeah.
You know, and it's like, wait a second. A, that was 20 years ago. I don't even remember my tone of voice. B,
it was actually last fall.
Like, okay, that's abuse. Like, let's really think about that. Like, it's so easy to go, that's not fucking abuse. Like, what are you even talking about? How are the lines so blurred? That diminishes what actually is abuse. But then you actually have to go, when you're talking about authenticity, go, why does this person see it as abuse?
Yeah. Yeah, and so there's two things on that. One is, you know, on set, there's a lot of moving parts. And I've been on a set where I literally turned to a PA and said, figure it out, go do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, me too. All the time.
Go be solution oriented. Now, the directness in which I spoke to you.
I would get that all the time, Brionne. I'm so direct that it's like mean.
So it's interpreted as mean to some people. Now, I work with people, like one of my favorite people that I've ever worked with, I will bring her on to any set, is my friend Darnell Rhea. And we've been friends for a very long time. She's a powerhouse. And I can turn to her and I say, just figure it out. Actually, I don't even have to, because she's already figured it out, right? And that is the working dynamic of a set, where you get to trust the process and know me as a human being. And if I say something that hurts you, I've already set up the safety umbrella that said, hey, tonight when we're doing the call for tomorrow, come over and get my attention and talk to me, because there might be a misinterpretation of the situation. Right? So
So this all just
you know,
keeps boiling down to communication.
yes.
And if something, yeah, go ahead.
You can't, look, all feelings are justified. They're all 100% justified. It's how you, but am I going to leave sad and go pout and he yelled at me? No, no, I'm going to go away. I'm going to take the time that I need. Okay, this is how I feel about it. I feel demeaned. I feel talked down to. And here's the thing, Jen.
Yeah.
That doesn't come from that moment. This is the crazy thing. And this is what people really get in that acknowledgement. People get to go, okay, I felt demeaned. I felt triggered. I felt in that moment. Now, I know Brionne has already said this is a loving, safe environment, but I still feel triggered. I still feel this, etc. That doesn't come from that interaction with me.
No, it's like
that comes from my interaction with my dad, and Brionne is a father figure, and when he talks to me directly, that is a relationship that
Yeah. So no, I love it. So is that so do you think that there's like an issue now with this word trigger that's so pop? It's like, I'm triggered, and so you as my boss get to know about that, all my triggers. Well, is there a responsibility? Like, how do you find the line where it's like, okay, this needs to be addressed with you as my boss, and this is just my trigger. Like, I'm just gonna go walk it off and do some deep breathing. Like, there's like some that fall into one and some that fall into another, right?
That is you being responsible for yourself and responsible for your feelings. That is saying, hey, I'm triggered by this. I get to acknowledge how I handle that. And if one of those mechanisms is to say to the person who triggered me, hey, I'm just letting you know that, because there's a lot of actors, a lot of people that don't respond well to direct, communication. And there's a lot of actors in a scene that requires you to yell that back down, right? So I get to work with actors to get through that. So those are triggers. They're completely 100% justified. They stem all the way throughout your life, right? But if you deny the opportunity to communicate not only with the person who's triggered you, but allow yourself to understand that I'm hypersensitive to that because of this life experience.
Yeah, like if you scream at me, I might shut down, and that might not do good. That might not be well for our creative collaboration. Where another actor might be like, please scream at me. It really, really helps me.
Right. And if you go to the director, if you go to the teacher, if you go to the producer beforehand.
But okay, yeah.
A list, so you give them your resume, and then here's my resume, and then here's
my
a list of all my triggers. You can't yell at me. I need to have water. I need to be hydrated. I need green M&Ms. If you don't get
okay, so what if I come to you and I'm like, please yell at me. It helps me get into character. And then 10 years later, yelling is considered abuse in pop culture. And now Brionne is my abuser.
I'm not even worried about that. Look,
I'm just kidding. Am I being
right.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I get it. I get it. But I was directing a show last year. It comes to trust. It comes down to trust.
I know.
I establish a relationship with my actors, my crew, and I open that. I create the safety. I create the environment in which people feel like they can have feelings and communicate them.
And also,
them.
Yeah, empowerment's a big word, and in all seriousness, and I was just having a little bit of fun too. But like the point of this is that we want to be able to truly hold space for things that are traumatic, that are happening in our environments, so we can expunge them, deal with them, make them go away as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And these things these things that fall into this other arena of humans and their psychology and what triggers us and things that might be bad later that are okay now. These are things we can't really worry about. But in all seriousness, if I accuse you of being an abuser because you yelled at me 10 years ago when I asked you to please yell at me to get into character, I also need to have some kind of sense of like responsibility to have a conversation about that. Not just use it as an opportunity to build my story, publicly. I really feel that.
Let me give you an example of, okay. When I was directing the show last fall, these are primarily students. The lead actress was a professional actor. We brought her in. Her name's Sydney Morgan. She's brilliant. Mm-hmm. She's phenomenal, passionate, incredible actress. And so we were diving into a scene that required her to go full throttle, required her to get raised in the chest, emotional experience and hurt and anger and all of those things. It required me, and this is what I did. I said, Sydney, you ready to go there? Are you ready? Like, you ready to like get into this? She's like, Brionne, please. Yes. And so we're in it. The three of us were in it. And like, I can't hear you. What are you feeling? I don't believe you. Like right there in with her. We were in it together, right? The scene required it. I directed a short film where I didn't do that. And I thought that it would still tell. And I wish I had. I wish I had gotten in the trenches with them. We were on a time commitment. And speaking of, anyway, DP's.
I call this method directing, by the way. I do it too.
But sometimes it requires, and especially since I'm an actor, I always interpret the scene from an actor's perspective. Always. Yeah. And so I'm gonna dive in, I'm gonna get you to that place, and she's like, oh, and to this day, she's grateful for that. Now, 10 years later, this girl who I respect, and she 100% loves and respects me, established that. Let's say, which I can't even fathom, her coming to me and saying, in that scenario, you yelled at me. I'm like, well, you gave a riveting performance, standing ovation worthy. And it was because of our getting in the trenches. It's because we were able to connect to that primal
That is
human.
acting, exactly. That is acting.
And look, I mean, you can't, like, but she would never do that. And the reason why I know that she would never do that is because we have a relationship. And if she did, that's what I would say to her.
One time something happened to me on a set where there was two girls that needed to be in a fight, and I didn't even ask for a slap. The actress said, what if she slaps me? And I was like, it's not necessary, honestly, for the scene, but if that happens organically and no one gets hurt, like, honestly, I really didn't need it. It wasn't exciting to me. Mm-hmm. But she was like, nah, we got to make this more raw and real. And I was like, okay, well, if this girl wants to slap you, let's choreograph it. So we did a little walkthrough. The fight scene went down. The girl slapped her, and the actress was like, ow, oh my God, how dare you let her do that to me? And like screamed at me. It hurt. It really hurt. This is awful. Like, she wasn't a professional actress. I had cast like real people. She totally flipped. And it was like, I actually didn't even want the slap. I guess the onus was on me to just be like, actually, no slapping, because that was my intuition for that particular scene anyway. It turned out the girl ended up being very difficult in many, many ways.